We've all been there. Someone says something slick, and before you know it, you've fired back. Maybe with words, maybe with silence soaked in resentment, and then regret. Not because you felt too much, but because you let that feeling take the mic. Reacting is easy. It's automatic. It's what your brain does to protect you, to defend you. But here's the truth. Your brain was built for survival, not peace. And survival doesn't care about consequences. That's why we have to train it to stop, pause, breathe, and respond instead of reacting. Here's the first shift. Reacting is instinctual, but responding is intentional. When you react, you hand over the keys. When you respond, you choose the direction. And let's talk about those triggers. The people who push your buttons, they're showing you where your buttons are still wired. A trigger isn't just a threat, it's a teacher. What if, instead of snapping, you paused and asked, why does this bother me so much? That moment of self-awareness, that's growth in real time. But growth needs space, and space starts with silence. Silence is your superpower. If you can just take one beat before the text, before the clapback, before the over-explaining, you give yourself a chance to lead, not leak. And let me be real, not everything deserves your energy. You don't have to swing at every pitch. You don't need to correct every misjudgment. You don't owe anyone a performance just because they're performing chaos. So what do you do instead? You listen to your emotions, but you don't obey them blindly. Because emotions are messengers, not masters. Anger says something feels unfair. Anxiety says I'm scared. Jealousy says I feel inadequate. None of those are shameful. They're signals, but they're not your script. Training your mind isn't about becoming a robot. It's about training your peace. Because in a world full of noise, the calmest person in the room holds the real power. You want peace? Start with a pause. You want respect? Start with restraint. You want power? Start with presence. You don't train your brain in a day, but each pause, each breath, each moment of stillness, that's a rip. And one day someone will push and you'll realize you no longer react, you respond. And that's when you know you've trained for this. Reacting is fast, it's raw, it's emotional. It's your brain's way of saying, act now, fix it, defend it, protect it. It feels like survival because in many ways it is. From a biological perspective, reacting kept our ancestors alive. Fight, flight, freeze. Those instincts are still wired in us today. But in the modern world, most of the threats we face aren't lions or life or meth scenarios. They're texts, words, looks, misunderstandings. And when we let those small things hijack our nervous system, we lose our footing. And with it, we lose our peace. When someone cuts you off in traffic, insults you, dismisses you, or disagrees with you, your brain fires up, it floods you with emotion. Your body gets tight, your heart beats faster, your mouth wants to speak before your mind is caught up. That's the reaction. But here's the problem. When you react, you hand over your power. You let someone else's behavior dictate your emotional state. It's like saying, here, you get to control me now. Responding, on the other hand, is a choice. It's when you pause, even just for a breath, and ask, is this worth it? What's the outcome I want here? Will this matter tomorrow? In that pause, you reclaim yourself. You take control back from the moment and give it to your values. That pause, that's power. Response doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean silence either. It simply means intention. It's thoughtful, measured, and calm. And here's the truth. The person who can stay calm while others are losing their heads, is the one who commands the room. People may provoke you, the world may test you, but your real strength shows in how little it takes to shake you. When you train yourself to respond instead of react, you stop being a puppet to other people's triggers. You become the author of your own reactions. You choose your tone. You choose your timing. You choose whether it even deserves your energy at all. This isn't about being passive. It's about being precise. It's about having emotional discipline. And discipline isn't suppression, it's mastery. It's saying, I see what's happening, I feel it, but I don't have to act on it just because it's loud. Over time, that gap between trigger and response becomes your growth zone. That's where your maturity lives. That's where your peace lives. You stop being ruled by the heat of the moment and start being guided by the strength of your awareness. So the next time you're tempted to snap, clap back, storm out, or shut down, pause, breathe, respond. Because when you respond, you don't just keep your cool, you keep your crown. We tend to think of triggers as problems, inconvenient, uncomfortable, or even shameful. But they're not problems, they're signals. Triggers don't come to shame you, they come to show you. Every time something stings, irritates, or rattles your peace, it's pointing towards something deeper that's asking for your attention, not from the world around you, but from within. When someone ignores your message and you feel disrespected, pause. That irritation isn't just about them. It may be rooted in a childhood where you felt overlooked. When someone criticizes you and it leaves you defensive for hours, pause. That reaction might come from a deep place inside that still craves validation or fears rejection. You see, triggers are unhealed echoes. They speak from old wounds that were never resolved, old beliefs we accepted as truth, or past versions of ourselves that were hurt but never heard. And they don't disappear by avoiding them, they wait quietly until something in your present pokes at what still needs peace. The beauty is this. Once you stop blaming the trigger and start studying it, you become your own healer. Instead of asking, why did they say that to me? You start asking, why did that bother me so much? That shift takes you out of victim mode and places you into growth mode. The trigger is a teacher. It's showing you where you're still carrying pain. It's not asking for a reaction, it's asking for reflection. And reflection is where healing begins. You start to uncover patterns. Maybe you realize you've been choosing relationships that mirror an old family dynamic. Maybe you notice you shut down emotionally anytime conflict arises because conflict once meant danger. The trigger opens the door to self-awareness, and from there, transformation. But here's the key. Healing doesn't always mean fixing. Sometimes healing just means understanding. It means offering yourself compassion in the places where judgment used to live. It means sitting with the discomfort instead of running from it, knowing it's not there to hurt you, it's there to free you. So the next time you're triggered, don't suppress it and don't project it. Study it. Let it teach you. Let it point you back to a version of you that still needs to be seen, heard, or soothed. Because the moment you stop fearing your triggers and start learning from them is the moment they lose their power over you. You become less reactive, more grounded, and far more in tune with yourself. And that's not just growth. That's self-mastery. Your triggers are not your enemy, they're your guides. And every time you listen, you become wiser, lighter, and more whole. In a world that pressures us to respond instantly, defend quickly, and speak constantly, silence feels unnatural, uncomfortable even. But silence isn't weakness. It's not retreat. It's not surrender. In truth, silence is a discipline and one of the strongest forms of self-restraint you can develop. When emotions run high, your instinct is to react, to jump in, to correct, to defend, to explain. But in that split second of verbal reaction, you often say something you don't mean, or something you later wish you'd said differently. That's because speaking from emotion is like trying to steer through a storm without vision. It's messy, and it leaves wreckage behind. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine pausing, just for a breath, 1 second to feel, then to think. That second doesn't seem like much, but it changes everything. Silence breaks the cycle of reactivity. It creates space between what triggered you and what you choose to do about it. That space, that's power. When you hold your silence, you are not doing nothing. You are doing the most important thing. You're choosing your next move with intention. You're shifting from reaction to response, from emotion to wisdom, from impulse to clarity. And here's the truth most people miss. Silence makes people uncomfortable not because it's empty, but because it's full of tension, awareness, control. Silence forces reflection, not only for you, but for the other person too. It slows down chaos. It interrupts drama. It unsettles those who expect you to lash out. Silence doesn't mean you're backing down. It means you're stepping back, not to avoid, but to observe, to let the noise settle so you can see clearly. That's not weakness. That's mastery. In conflict, silence is strength. In misunderstanding, silence is strategy. In temptation, silence is self-protection. And let's be clear, silence doesn't mean silence forever. It just means not yet. It means not now. You're not silent because you don't know what to say. You're silent because you want to say it right. Silence also protects your energy. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every accusation needs an answer. Not every confrontation is worth your peace. Sometimes the best response is no response because your silence speaks volumes. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, test you, or corner you into a reaction, pause. Take a breath. Let silence step in before your words do. In that breath, you regain your control. You remember who you are. And more importantly, you remind them who they're dealing with. Because when you can stay silent in a moment that demands noise, you don't just win the moment, you win yourself. And in a world loud with emotion, confusion, and chaos, that kind of inner peace is a superpower. There's a moment in life when you realize not everything demands your presence, your voice, or your reaction. Some battles are nothing more than distractions in disguise. And just because someone throws a stone doesn't mean you're obligated to throw one back. Your energy is a currency, and not everything is worth the cost. People will provoke you, some intentionally, others out of their own unhealed chaos. They'll pull you into conversations that go nowhere, debates fueled by ego, and arguments that are more about control than truth. But here's the thing, you have the right to decline the invitation. You don't have to respond to every opinion. You don't have to correct every misperception. You don't owe anyone your peace just because they handed you their chaos. Peace is not passive, it's protective. And protecting your peace often looks like staying silent, walking away, or choosing not to engage at all. That choice isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The more you grow, the more you realize how valuable your energy is, your focus, your time, your emotional availability. They're not unlimited, and giving them away carelessly to people or situations that drain you only robs you of the life you're trying to build. And here's a truth that might sting. Some people want your reaction more than they want your resolution. They don't care about solving the issue. They care about controlling the moment. When you react, they win. When you stay grounded, you win. You have to ask yourself in every heated situation, is this worth my energy? Will this matter? Does engaging help, or does it just keep me stuck? Most of the time, the answer is no. Let people misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them think they've won because you didn't fight back. Silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. It's knowing that your peace, your mental clarity, your emotional health, they matter more than being right in the eyes of someone who never intended to understand you in the first place. The more you protect your energy, the more selective you become, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. You start noticing what drains you, who derails you, which conversations serve no purpose, and little by little, you stop showing up to the things that don't deserve you. That's growth. That's maturity. That's leadership of self. Not everything is your fight. Not every insult needs a defense. Not every fire needs you to throw more fuel. Sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. So the next time you're pulled into drama, chaos, or unnecessary conflict, remember this. You are allowed to protect your peace, preserve your energy, and walk away without explanation. Not everything deserves your energy. Emotions are powerful. They arrive quickly, speak loudly, and often demand our attention. And that's okay, because emotions are meant to be felt. They're part of being human. They let you know when something isn't right, when something matters, when something needs your attention. But here's the truth. Emotions are messengers, not masters. They're here to inform you, not control you. Anger might be telling you there's a boundary that's been crossed. Fear could be pointing to something you need to prepare for. Sadness may be asking you to slow down and grieve what you've lost. Even jealousy can be a signal, maybe of what you desire or what you believe you're missing. Emotions aren't your enemy. They're data. They reveal the state of your inner world. But problems arise when you stop listening and start obeying. When you hand your decisions over to your emotions, you give away your power. You end up saying things in anger that you didn't mean. You isolate out of sadness, lash out of fear, or make impulsive choices that lead to long-term regret. That's what happens when you let emotions drive. They don't care about consequences, only about relief. You can feel deeply and still respond wisely. You can be hurt and still choose healing. You can be angry and still lead with clarity. Mastery begins when you stop reacting to emotions and start responding through them. That means making space for them without letting them steer. You can say, I feel this, without saying, I am this. And that's where the growth happens, in the space between feeling and reacting. That pause is where you learn to regulate. That's where your awareness steps in and asks, what is this emotion trying to tell me? And what would a wise version of me do with this? Because the goal isn't to suppress your emotions. That only builds pressure. The goal is to process them, acknowledge them, sit with them long enough to understand them, and then respond in a way that honors your values, not just your feelings in the moment. This is how emotional intelligence is built, not by denying emotion, but by learning to interpret it. Emotions have volume, but they don't have vision. They feel real, but they don't always tell the truth. That's why you can feel rejected and still be loved. You can feel hopeless and still have options. You can feel like giving up and still keep going. So next time a wave of emotion rises, don't fight it, but don't follow it blindly either. Listen to the message. Let it pass through you, not control you. And once you've heard what it came to say, release it. Respond with intention, not impulse. Because when you treat emotions like guests, not gods, you remain the one in control. Feel deeply, yes, but always choose who's driving. Your peace depends on it. We live in a world that celebrates hustle, reaction, and noise. The louder you are, the more attention you get. The quicker you snap back, the stronger you're seen. But here's the deeper truth. Real power isn't in how loud you are. It's in how calm you can stay when everything around you is loud. Calm isn't weakness, it's control. It's leadership. It's the sign of a mind that's been trained not to flinch every time it's provoked, not to crumble under pressure, and not to get pulled into every emotional storm. Calm is a muscle, and like any muscle, it takes repetition to build. Training your mind is not about pretending things don't bother you. It's about knowing they don't have to break you. It's about teaching your brain that not every situation requires a reaction, not every word deserves a response, and not every challenge is a crisis. Your mind is your first battlefield. It's where anxiety starts, where fear breeds, where stress spins its web. But it's also where peace is born. It's where strength is cultivated, where decisions are made and futures are formed. So when you train your mind to slow down, to observe, to choose instead of react, you are training your peace. And peace is powerful because the calmest person in the room, that's the one people notice. That's the one people lean on. That's the one who isn't driven by ego or emotion, but by clarity. They don't chase control, they embody it. And when others are spiraling, they're grounded. But this kind of calm doesn't just show up on its own. It comes from doing the work, from practicing pause, from choosing reflection over reaction. It comes from breathing through discomfort, observing your thoughts instead of becoming them, and knowing when to engage and when to let go. Peace isn't found in the absence of noise. It's found in the ability to stay centered in the middle of it. You train your peace every time you don't take the bait. Every time you walk away from an argument that's not worth your time. Every time you choose to respond thoughtfully instead of emotionally. That's how self-control grows. That's how inner power is built. And over time, your calm becomes your confidence. Your peace becomes your presence. You stop needing to prove yourself because you know yourself. You stop letting every external thing shake your internal world. The calmest person in the room isn't the one with nothing going on. It's the one who's done the inner work. The one who's trained their mind to stay steady when everything else is shifting. So don't chase power, build peace. Train your mind like you train any other part of yourself, with care, with effort, and with consistency. So here's what it all comes down to. Control isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. It's not about never feeling, but about learning how to feel without being ruled by those emotions. Reacting is easy. Anyone can do that. But responding, that takes strength. That takes presence. That takes practice. Every trigger, every pause, every moment of silence, these are your training grounds. These are the reps that build emotional resilience. The more you train your brain to slow down, to reflect, to observe, the more peace you create within. And that peace doesn't just stay inside you, it shows up in your relationships, your choices, and your leadership. Remember this, not everything deserves your energy. Not every emotion needs a reaction, and not every battle is worth your presence. You are not your reaction. You are your response. Train your mind, guard your peace, master your silence, and lead your life with calm intention, not chaos. Thank you for listening. Stay grounded, stay present, and stay powerful.